Life caused death, and death created life. Life and death are the black and white, or the white and black of our worlds. But just like mixing these colors in actuality, the mixing of these processes yields a shade, a grey too. Now I can't tell you whether it's a distortion or a name-changing shapeshifter having been called reincarnation, the concept of heaven and hell. But if life and death, the black and white, the beginning and the end are processes, shouldn't the in-between or the grey be one too? My name is Aarushi Kataria, and let us get a better perspective into the full circle and delve deeper into the black, the white and the grey. I've tied his hands behind his back and noose around his neck. A gun is placed to his temple, and I had to do all of this while he stared at me with the intensity of 7 billion people looking right into my soul. And maybe they were. His hands began to bleed and he started shouting, and I had to place a gag on his mouth, but it's impossible to silence 7 billion people all at once. As I stand in this dark abyss, I hear it. The hymns of unity, the sounds of companionship, the sound of humanity, fingers typing pray for the world and love, hashtags trending all over the world. But life doesn't look like himself. He looks more like me. He's damaged, bandaged, but still resilient. I am death, and being death is a lonely job. For you to kill the only company you could keep. But these days, people don't fear death, they've begun to embrace it. For there is too much hate in this world for there to be any place for love. But the day after a dozen terrorists attack the capital of a country, or when there's been genocide, there comes a beacon of hope. Over the years, I've fallen in love with my solitude. But when I saw life in its flesh for the first time, I knew I had to offer him something. And that something was my love. And the only question that could race through my mind was whether life, like the taste of fire. Life teaches you that you have another day to breathe. Life teaches you to love somebody as if you were in eternity with them. Life teaches you that you have a tomorrow. Death teaches you that this could be your last breath. Death teaches you there is only now. We're in the depths of the hell and the core of the earth is burning, and yet life seems as cold as ice. But when I fell in love with life, life flourished. People stopped dying, but how were they to survive when there wasn't enough food or water? There was catastrophe, imbalance, so had to kill people. And with every life I took, I felt like I was killing a part of life. But what I forgot was, what goes around comes around, that atoms can neither be created nor destroyed, that every cell in our body is replenished, and so was every life. So I began to untie the ropes, loosened the noose, and unloaded the gun. And life looked at me, his eyes burning with the fire of defiance, and he mumbled something. His words as blind as the edge of the universe. He held my hands rigorously and asked me if I would ever kill him, his entire existence, all at once. And in my answer, he witnessed the creation of a lie. All I know is that I am here. He is here. He is alive, and I am not alone. I'm standing on the cliff's edge, and I know he's watching. I'm about to take a step forward and bridge the distance between us. The ground is much like the state of my mind. It's constantly moving, and I'm doubtful as to where I'll fall, whether I will fall down the cliff or in the depths of my mind. I've written a letter to my air in the softest parchment I could find with silk borders, but maybe my air wouldn't need to find it, or maybe I wouldn't jump. I have looked at death ever since I was an infant, and death has stolen parts of me. Parts of me that replenished, but parts of me nevertheless. Death is the horror that has made the 7 billion cells that I house cry, tormented them, and made them wake up from nightmares. Death has a funny way of being in love. It never lives up to its promise. Millennium after millennium have waited for the end to come, that death would probably fulfill his promise, but years, decades, centuries and millenniums have passed and there seems to be no end. Death seems to have died. I played with fire. Where is my doomsday? Death. I have looked at death countless times, and death wears a regal robe made perfect blend of silk and cotton, perfect blend of effortlessness and grace. But in the summer, death doesn't need a robe. I can see the wide expanse of his back, which is like glass, transparent, spattered with paint all over him to show every death. But black and white never make an appearance. It seems like death is a rainbow that leads people into monochromatic funerals. I'm standing on the cliff's edge and I know death is watching from the sidelines of the stadium called Earth, and I know that today I will make a choice. I will bridge the gap and I will choose my happiness. And being happy, the whole existence of me being happy is a very rare phenomena, for I have 7 billion souls, each struggling with their own tired need, drowning in a private sea, neck deep in pain and irony. But I take the step forward. I am off the cliff's edge now. Life wants to cease to exist completely, but forgets that death cannot exist without life. So they come to a compromise and name it afterlife. So what is afterlife? Of all the abstractions that we can form, of all the expressions that we can understand and animals cannot, we decide to explain a word that a lot of us haven't experienced. So afterlife. Afterlife is the belief that a person's stream of consciousness or their personal identity remains to manifest in the earth even after the death of the physical body. So what proof do we have? Near-death experiences, history and faith. Now when we talk about veridical near-death experiences, they are described as a state where the experiencer has an out-of-body experience that they shouldn't have been able to have if they were dead. First case study. The case study of the dentures man. A man is brought into the emergency of a hospital and is seen wearing dentures which need to be removed so that he can be placed in a ventilator and his heart can be restarted. 2 weeks later, after he recovers, he asks the same nurse who removed his dentures, "Where are my dentures?" Now the man shouldn't have been able to know that it was the same nurse who took his dentures, for he was dead, but he did. The second study would be the study conducted by Dr. Sam Pernia, where about 40% of all experiencers of cardiac arrest showed some state of awareness during the time that they were clinically dead. A man even said that he left his body and could watch his entire resuscitation from the corner of the OPD. Another woman said that when she had an accident and was clinically dead for 15 minutes, she heard a voice that told her that she would live, and that 10 years later her son would die in the same manner, and he did. Falling back to faith, every faith establishes the existence of something after death. But what is it? To a lot of them, it's the existence of heaven and hell, the place where you get punished or rewarded for all the goods or the bads that you've done in your life. But they all also say that this is just a transient phase before you're reborn onto the earth, and that you're born, the cycle continues again and again until you merge with God. So all we can say is that nothing dies. Nothing is born. Everything just changes forms. I am afterlife, and somewhere in between I lie.